I am so excited to share this video with you today because we are looking at some of my favorite, most popular dark green paint colors. Now, green definitely is having a moment, but the great thing about green is that to a degree, it's kind of a timeless color, just depends on where it is. A lot of people like to use dark green on their cabinets, kitchen island, exterior front door, inside of your front door, accent walls. You can color drench a whole room in green if you want. You can fill your little green boots with it. And I'm here to show you which ones are the best to do that with. Now, when you're looking at greens, it's about knowing there's warm greens, so greens with a bit of yellow in them, and cool greens, greens with a bit of blue in them. And sometimes you don't know that until you compare. So I have all of my Samplize Peel and Stick paint samples because I never just pick a color based on its lonely old little self. I'm going to compare it to other similar shades so I can see what's shaken. It's not just about what I like. I want to see what my home responds to. Does it lean into a warm green, a cool green, one that's a little bit less saturated, one that's more saturated so it has more color and depth to it? Comparing is the best way to pick a color. So we are also comparing by using, let's see, I should have it organized, Sherwin-Williams Pewter Green. It is our baseline green. I chose it because it's a green that a lot of people start with when they're looking at greens. They go online and Pewter Green tends to come up because it is wicked pretty. But again, you need to compare to make sure it is actually the right green for your space. So we are using it as our baseline. Now, I also wanted to do a video that showcased Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams greens, but seriously, like, Sherwin-Williams hit it out of the park. This is just some of the glorious greens they have. I have a few more here that we'll look at the end, ones that aren't as popular, but again, we want to compare. So we're going to do that. Now, let's get this little color party started. Sherwin-Williams Pewter Green. This is our baseline. So let's start with Sherwin-Williams Laurel Woods. I love Laurel Woods. It probably doesn't get the reputation it deserves because of where it is in the fan deck. It's not with the greens, and it should be. It's glorious. Look at that green. So we can say, okay, compared to Pewter Green, it's darker, it's more colorful. Those two things combined means it's more saturated, and it's beautiful. Now, another handy thing you can have when looking at darker paint colors is something black, just a nice little black square like this. Because before, this color's like, oh, that's pretty skookum. That might be too dark for what I want. But then you compare it to black and it's like, oh, not quite as intimidating as it seemed. Now let's move down to Sherwin-Williams Olympic Range. This is a beautiful one if you want a slightly cleaner green look. Now comparing the two, you can see Laurel Woods is that little bit warmer, slightly olive inspired compared to the slightly cooler look of Olympic Range. Compared to our lovely Pewter Green, again, way more saturation, so more depth, more color. Now let's move on to Sherwin-Williams Night Owl. So you can see Night Owl, it's a little bit moodier than Pewter Green. It's a little bit, let's say it's a little bit more grayed out, not by much, a little bit darker, not by much. Two different green looks, but two that are likely to suit similar finishes. They're not that far apart. If we go down to Sherwin-Williams Cast Iron, which is so pretty, so is Sherwin-Williams Thunderous, another gorgeous one. If you like cast iron, check out Thunderous as well. Now there's a really good comparison there. Do you like a warmish green? Do you like a slightly cooler looking one? And more importantly, what suits your space? Because you might like cool and your space might like warm. So those are great comparables, similar depth, similar intention with their degree of color. Now compare those two, Night Owl, Cast Iron. You can see how Night Owl just looks that little bit more shady, like not slim shady, but like a little bit more grayed out, moody. I like it. If I were to choose between the two, personal tastes, I love Cast Iron. Now, Sherwin-Williams Hidden Trail, it picks up a little bit of what Cast Iron gave us, tiny bit more saturated. Here, let's do this first. So compare from there to there. A little bit darker, a little bit richer, still has that little wink of olive green in it, which I do love. I'm a green girl. Comparing the two, such a difference. You probably wouldn't compare these two for your space because they likely suit different finishes with the degree of saturation and warmth there. What suits this likely doesn't suit this. But compare these two, oh, for sure. You might even throw Laurel Woods in there. Yeah, anyway. Now we've got Sherwin-Williams Grizzle Gray. So if you are like, oh, I love green, but I don't want to be punched in the face with green when I walk in my room, Grizzle Gray is a great option because it's more of a gray-green blend. Like some people might look at it and go, oh, you have really great gray walls. Is there a bit of green in there? Other people will say, oh, you have really pretty green walls. I like how they're like so muted and subtle. That's Grizzle Gray. So looking at the difference here, you can see how Pewter Green pops up with more green. Sherwin-Williams Rock Bottom. Come to mama. I love this green. It is so glorious, so rich, so dark, so saturated. Now, again, it's like, oh, that is wicked dark. Way further than I want to go. And it might be, but you compare it to black and go, oh, okay, not as intimidating, not as scary, maybe still too dark, but it gives you a better frame of reference for what you're really looking at. Sherwin-Williams Retreat. You might be like, oh, Kylie, these are way darker greens than I was banking on. I think I have another lightish one in here, but Retreat, oh, wrong one. Retreat. You can see that takes us lighter than our Pewter Green. It almost has a bit of a sage look, which can be really pretty. There's a little bit of blue in there. Love it. Gorgeous. Drastically different from the rest of this panel. Sherwin-Williams Shade Grown. Seriously, if I were to paint my kitchen today, it would be shade grown. Or, no, it would be shade grown for sure. But I might change my mind. Now, compare it to Pewter Green. I might have started with Pewter Green and been like, yeah, I think that's the green I want. I looked at it online. It looks just perfect. And then I bring home Shade Grown. I'm like, oh, hello. Like, for me, I know they're both greens and they're darkish. Vastly different looks. Way more dramatic, moody, intense without being like punchy, because I've got some punchy. So gorgeous. I love it. Sherwin-Williams Rosemary. Now that gives us quite a bit of green. If you're like, wow, these are pretty tame, Kai. I think I want a little bit more green. Rosemary is beautiful. One of my friends, we did this in her pantry on the walls, and it's like, like we've got dark wood in there on the floor and butcher block countertop, and it's so pretty. I should get it online. Anyways, Sherwin-Williams Homburg Gray. Now this one, more gray, a little bit more blue mixed in. You can see that there. So if you're like, oh, that's more the green I had in my head, then you like a green that's cool, one that has some blue to it. There are more colorful versions like Sherwin-Williams Stillwater, Riverway. There's one on the top of my head. Rocky River, that's another one. But anyways, that's Homburg Gray. It's the most grayed out of that bunch. And lastly, well, not lastly, but Sherwin-Williams Ripe Olive. So good. I love it. As you can tell, I have my favorites and I'm allowed to. I kind of do this all day long. You might have different favorites and that's cool beans with me. So check that out. Big difference in green. Again, it's these comparisons looking at from here to here that you're like, oh, okay, well maybe I actually don't want it that dark. This one hits the perfect spot. Compare, compare, compare. And don't get sample pots. They're ridiculous. Samplize Peel Stick are more affordable. Now, I want to do a few more comparisons. Do I have Eclipse in here? I might. Yep, I do. Okay. Now, this first one, this is actually Benjamin Moore. It's Benjamin Moore Dragon's Breath. It is a grayish, so it's a grayish, so it has a green undertone, and it's warm. I want to just show some, this is quick, so don't worry. Look at the difference there, how that green pops. The green pops, and this has green in it, but you'd hardly know it, right? Those are actually kind of pretty together. So this is similar to Sherwin-Williams Urbane Bronze, which I have on my kitchen island, and I love it. Well, I love it, but I'm kind of over it, so don't tell Tim that I want to paint it. Again, comparison is key. So look at, we compared these and went, oh wow, that is way cooler than I might have thought it was, right? Compare, compare, compare. Oh look, that blue just pops, right? Almost picks up a teal look. Love it. What's this? Sherwin-Williams Thunder Gray. This is another grayish with a nice green undertone. Again, I'll move a bit quicker this time. I know I talk too much. You can see that green coming up. Hopefully that shows on the screen. Kind of cool. See, comparison is key. Don't be afraid to sample something that's similar, something that's even a bit different, darker, lighter, what you might not have thought you'd done, like this. Now, if you're like, oh, Kylie, those greens are so tame, I want to hit it out of the park, you might look at Sherwin-Williams Inverness, and I'll forgive you for doing it, and I'd really love to see photos, but would I do Inverness on my kitchen cabinets? Heck no. That's like, it's a lot. Well, here, let's do a quick comparison because it's just shocking the difference of color. Don't get me wrong, this color is pretty, but it packs a wallop. If I'm going to do a darker, brighter green, I might look at Sherwin-Williams Inverness. Super pretty, kind of winks at that kind of hunter green look without, you know, you don't want to get burgundy or gold with it, but you know. Now this will show us how muted and classic all of our green shades are here in comparison to something that's quite more legitimately green. So if you were like, oh, I like that rosemary, but it might be a bit too green for me, all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe it's just right. I think I have one or two more. Oh yeah, Sherwin-Williams Rocky River. I was comparing that with that. So you can see more color, less gray. That's compared to Homburg Gray. It'll be so different from these ones, so we're not gonna spend too much time on that. Do I have anything more? Ah, yes. I have two more, stay with me. We're almost done. Sherwin-Williams Eclipse, if you're like, I want a little bit of warmth, I want some softness. You might have liked Cast Iron, which was here. Again, Sherwin-Williams Thunderous. You might also like Eclipse. You see just a little bit more of an olive tone pop up there. That makes Night Owl look quite cooler in comparison. So if you like a little bit of a lighter approach, you like some warmth, gorgeous. Like, these actually look really pretty together, and it shows how much blue is in that green blend. And lastly, Sherwin-Williams Link Gray, for those of you who are thinking, you know what? Those are way too dark. I need more light. It's a reasonable comparable to Sherwin-Williams Retreat. You know, if you want to go lighter again, Sherwin-Williams Evergreen Fog, Acacia Haze, more beautiful colors. I will be doing a video on the Benjamin Moore greens, and I also have a blog post about several of these greens with photos, so be sure to check it out.